And we are live, ladies and gentlemen. We are live. Welcome to Benchley Night, except tonight is not going to be Benchley Night. Tonight I'm going to read from my sister's journals. Now, why are you going to do that, you might ask? Why would you read your sister's journals rather than Robert Benchley? And we have Charbonneau. Charbonneau, how are you, buddy? Charbonneau would like a snack first. First things first, ladies and gentlemen. First things first. Here you go, buddy. And then bear with me a moment. I have to ensure that Charbonneau doesn't go out again. And he's learned how to get the cat door to go to open it up. So hang on. Okay. Charbonneau has been, as we say, achieved. That is a very important part of the evening routine. So, Charbonneau has had a snack. He has been achieved. It's been a chaotic week, ladies and gentlemen. You may remember that last week when I did Benchley Night, I said that house cat Yorkie was getting ready to go over the Rainbow Bridge, and indeed on Monday, Yorkie did. Between 12:15 and 12:45, she breathed her last under the chaise longue in the living room, and my wonderful neighbor Mary wrapped her in burlap, and we buried her where she used to come and sit and wait for the little children every summer. Mary has friends who have little children, and the little children would stay for a month, and they would love on Yorkie. And this week I received notes from each of the family members. There's this one. Dear Charlie, I am so sorry to hear that Yorkie passed away. We liked it so much. And oh, hi, Sharbs. And from another one of the children, another little note. Dear Charlie, I am sorry that your awesome cat has passed away. And then a little drawing of many, many cats. And then a note from the girl. Yeah, yes. Charbonneau needs to lie on all these notes now. In loving memory of Yorkie, the most wonderful cat in the whole world. Dear Charlie, I am so sorry to hear that Yorkie has passed away. I will never forget her. She was the sweetest cat ever. Sincerely. And I'm covering the names, just internet privacy and everything. But stop biting me. But look at that drawing of Yorkie. I love that drawing. So great. Yes, and Charbonneau is now spread out in front of my entire work area. Okay. Now, you also may know that I bruised my tailbone, so I've been sort of low-level pain all week. That is getting better. It's now 20%, 15% of what it was. However, because strange things come in threes, today I was Studio Cat Corduroy, who was also 20. The Studio Cat Corduroy, and is nothing but skin and bones, this morning was in fine fettle clean plate club bitching me out. I worked at the studio till 1. I came back at 5:30, and I think Corduroy is getting ready to leave. I think Corduroy she may have just eaten too much plastic, because she is fond of eating plastic, and then she does tend to get sick, but she's just dopier than she normally would be. So yes, it's very hard to say goodbye. It's very hard to say goodbye as Charbonneau, as Jenny the String says, so hard to lose our sweet littles. And Jim says, Yorkie had a great life. We had many great years together. We did. We did. And Carol Fulkerson says she's been thinking of us all week. Appreciate that, Carol. Well, send a good thought to Corduroy, too. Anyway, rather than reading a light, humorous piece, I thought I would read one of my sister's journal entries. I don't know how many people, I don't know the Venn diagram if everyone who watches these also gets the Bandana Journal, but the Bandana Journal came about when my sister died in 2022, 2023, one or the other. And all of us who knew her and were spending time at her home would see her journals. She kept voluminous journals, and they were, available to be read. And all of us were struck with how astonishingly well written they were. Because what she would do is get up every morning at 4 a.m. or some god-awful time and write for a couple of hours. And they were, sometimes they'd just be like to-do lists of need to get the weed eater fixed, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes they'd be extremely detailed observations of monarch butterfly caterpillars. And sometimes there'd be kind of philosophical explorations. And what we started doing two or 3 years ago was publishing her journals 28 years to the day from the day that she had written them. Right now, and we thought there'd be about 20, maybe a dozen people who would be interested. Well, we now have 420 people or something who subscribe to the Bandana Journal, which is free and freely given over on Substack. And her friends Gail and Sandy do the editing of the journals and then send me the files, and then I format them for Substack. And for the last 3 days, while getting over my bruised tailbone, I have been getting the next few months of Bandana Journals done. And why not use my teeny tiny bully pulpit in case you don't know about this? We'd love to have you subscribe and see if you like this writing. I think she's an amazing writer, but she was my favorite sibling. So there you go. What do we got? Yes, Sharp. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start reading. And it's as I say, this is not it's not funny, but it's interesting. And it's very timely. It's very timely given things like the Jeff Bezos wedding. Journal, July 29th. So remember, she just woke up at 4 a.m. on this day and wrote this. The heat makes it nearly impossible to think. Oh, and so this is a sneak preview, ladies and gentlemen, a sneak preview of what you're going to see on July 29th of 2025. This will be the entry. Actually, I edited it slightly, so it'll be a little bit longer than this. Journal, July 29th. The heat makes it nearly impossible to think. I have no idea whether I am sleep deprived or not. I woke up at 2:30 a.m. and didn't go back to sleep. And as near as I can tell, I went to bed at about 9:30 p.m. But I must have slept most of the afternoon with several interruptions by the telephone. Tomorrow and Thursday, I am shutting the telephone off. The last 3 of my grandchildren are going to emerge today. These are her monarch butterfly caterpillars. I let 5 go yesterday. I think 3 male and 2 female, but it might have been the other way around. Wouldn't it be wonderful if I found another round of eggs on the milkweed? I assume that the butterflies that are emerging now are not going to be going to Mexico, that they'll spawn another generation that will. The caterpillars and chrysalids that are maturing now seem to me to be going through the whole process at an astonishing rate. I had my first emergence at 5:30 a.m. yesterday, a result, I'm sure, of the heat. It was 70 degrees at 4 a.m., 68 this a.m., but it's supposed to go way down, according to the weather forecast, to around 60 the next few nights. That'll make the quality of sleep improve immeasurably. Now, what we do with the Bandana Journal, ladies and gentlemen, is we just use the 19th century convention of the first letter of people's names, aside from family members, because family members are family members and everyone knows who they are. But everyone else, their anonymity is protected. We just use that first initial and then a dash, So it says, T and I stuck all the butterflies outside on the apple tree in the flower bed. They looked beautiful there. And later in the day, I saw one through the blinds opening and closing its wings on the mulberry tree as she and I sat in the kitchen talking. One flew up from or on or near the apple when I went out in the backyard late in the afternoon. The plants I didn't have to pinch the tops of to get the little caterpillars inside a few weeks ago are getting ready to bloom. I look forward to next year. Can I actually be saying I'm looking forward to next summer? She hated summer. She hated summer, ladies and gentlemen. When I have a good stand of plants. I reopened a file in the works folder that I'd started last fall. I'd labeled it Fear of Outside, in which I had written about the disappointment that I had felt in the class I had asked to describe animals and that all picked their cats and dogs. So she taught writing classes at like community colleges and stuff. So she's referring to one of these classes or adult education classes, things like that. I have experienced the same kind of disappointment this time in the stories about the natural world and gardening. They all seem to me to present an enchanted view, the beautiful world, despite the fact that if you observe at all carefully, you immediately see that it is a dog-eat-dog world out there. This indicates to me that they have not looked closely. Oh, they've sat on their porches, decks, and patios and watched the darling little chippies running back and forth. One of those darling little chippies running back and forth was interrupted in its cavorting by Hank or Latasha, her two cats, not too long ago, and is rotting under the deck and providing a putrefaction odor to the silent night where I wish I could see piled clouds, and instead I see dim stars. We don't have any of the stink and dogginess of nature in any of the writings. They will tell me that hummingbirds are not nice to each other, that they don't like to share. But when they put pen to paper to describe them, oh, they are enchanting little flyers. No meanness, not carefully observed detail, just this damnable soft focus on everything. This gauzy appreciation that never goes deep enough to want to find anything out, to look up when they're writing, to look up what they're writing about to find out exactly what it is. No, I'm not being fair there. A did look up chipmunks and red squirrels to get their sizes, but when she wrote about what she found, it came out sounding like a fourth grade book report. I guess what disturbs me about this is you don't get any of the perplexity of nature in these writings. And it is the perplexity that you must see in order to learn anything from nature about life and your place in the world. Because nature's final message is not going to exempt you from the process you are so afraid of, but instead is going to draw you in. What is heaven but a construct agreed upon by human beings because each of them in their own lone selves cannot stand the idea that he or she will not be excused from unspeakable process, from growing old and sagging, and finally from death. That is what we seek, exemption from the law, though what the lesson we need to listen to, what is being whispered, shouted all around us, is that the price one must pay for life is death. But that's all right, because everything's paying it. The beautiful, the ugly, the perfect, the misshapen. That understanding, that acceptance of one's place is what Annie Dillard is talking about at the end of Pilgrim at Tinker Creek, when she says that people falling from airplanes are not saying please, but thank you as the carriages draw up upon the rocks. That, to me, is what I feel I am in training for, to be saying thank you instead of please in the end. I imagine G, that's her neighbor. I can't say his name, but it started with G. I imagine G out there on his tractor in a different way this year from last. He had received a cancer diagnosis. Out there doggedly, not saying either please or thank you so much as I will stay. And of course, he's wrong about that. He won't stay. None of us will stay. Surrender to the forces greater than ourselves is the way of the world. Ultimately, geology is going to get us all. Man is not as nothing. Man is nothing. And if man is nothing, then individual man is so minute as to be non-discernible. You cannot control nature. As Taylor says, man cannot wrest time from its path. The best you can do is collaborate, to try your slight rearrangements, redirecting a single squash vine so you can get the lawnmower around the end of it, guiding the pole bean tendril toward the fence, watering the plant wilting in the sun and heat. What kills the souls of the comfortable is that the control that they have spent a lifetime exerting over their money, their material possessions, and probably have attempted to exert over family and friends, shatters when it comes to controlling their eluding of death or control of nature. Control of nature is what has led us to spray pesticides on everything, whereas what we need to be trying to control is our natures, our foolish wills. I think of G out there on the tractor on a hot afternoon. Has he not listened to the words of his own Bible? A time for every purpose under heaven. And what is this summer of 1997 time for him? Should he not, perhaps, instead of proving to everyone in the neighborhood that he will continue on, overcome pain, etc., be sitting in the shade gazing at the sleeping, flushed faces of his grandchildren, the small, fresh lives that will replace his own and that will continue to intertwine themselves with the soil that he has worked and loved and that has sustained him all these years? Should he not be sitting with C, telling him the stories of the family he'll be taking his place in? Should he not be spending what may be his last year giving gifts to the spirit of those who will face the more complex challenges of the future? Should he not be handing down the stories, surrendering the field work to his sons and the men that they hire to help them? A time to every purpose under heaven. That's not giving up. That may be surrender, but it's not defeat. It's recognizing your place. But for people who have imposed their will on the land to produce more, to eliminate weeds, to increase the bushels per acre, such a rearrangement of place is difficult. I think of Mom spending 2 days a week with, I will say, with Sammy. That was her grandson, my brother William's son, Sam. Spending 2 days a week with Sammy, infusing him with experiences that will be invaluable for him later on, that will sustain him as he grows older, and like C, has to deal with an overpopulated, complex world. She is besotted with him. She thinks the sun rises and sets with him, talks to him and listens to him as though he were the most important thing in the world. Given that now, perhaps he will be able to surrender his place as the most important thing in the world more easily when it is time for him to do so. So many children are never that. They spend their entire lives trying to get attention. On and on, the terrible, terrible need for attention and all the ways that not getting enough attention or not getting the right kind of attention early in life warps and bends people. Attention later on does not make up for it. And what it seems to me that Mom is giving Sammy is the world, the real world, the world with which ultimately all of us must cope. Well, back to my students. Their lack of curiosity about the world that surrounds them astonishes me. Watch the cute little chippies. Look up the facts in the guide, maybe, but leave it at that. What about pushing the wonder further? Can you tell one from another? Does anything in the behavior suggest sex, age, etc.? What does your lack of interest in these vital details of this chipmunk you are allowing to amuse you tell you about the world? These life and death issues that concern you about yourself, aren't knowledge of your sex and age vital to anyone understanding you? Would you not rail against anyone who pretended to know anything about you if they didn't bother to try to find out those? Well, how about this amusing little chipmunk? If you believe that man is made in God's image, what does your attitude toward this chipmunk tell you about your God's attitude toward you? Do you think he cares more about you, your little individual needs, than you care about this chipmunk? If you want your needs met, would it not behoove you to meet others' needs? Not necessarily other people's needs, especially people in whose future you have a vested interest, but in other living things' needs. Two of my caterpillars are eating away at the remnants of a leaf that must have been especially toothsome. The one in the rear chewing away at the rib that the one in the vanguard has its feet attached to. Only the slenderest strips of leaf remain. But, as is frequently the case in the insect world, they have suddenly gone into a state of arrest, prompted apparently by my quiet chuckle, which made all four heads bob simultaneously. And once arrested, it takes quite a while for them to resume. This is probably what discourages most insect watchers. I know it is what often discourages me. The smell from that rotting chipmunk is really coming in the window strongly now. Determined as I was to see what happened in this drama, was the fore caterpillar going to transfer itself to another leaf as I assumed, as it seemed about to do before the aft caterpillar chewed through the leaf's connecting tissue? If not, was the fore caterpillar and midrib going to slide onto the leaf below and stop there, or slide all the way to the bottom of the cage? I've now written this entire paragraph and the drama has not been resumed. The issue is not resolved. People steeped on TV dramas will not easily make the transfer to insect dramas, I can see. Incredibly, the fore caterpillar joined the aft in severing the leaf fragment it is attached to, and is now busily chewing away, trying to complete its own destruction. Meanwhile, the aft caterpillar is still working on the toothpick-like fragment that is attached to the stalk. The fore caterpillar's stability on this suspended stem piece is amazing to behold, like a cartoon character who has overrun the top of a cliff and has not looked down yet. Well, the precarious balance being maintained by the first set of pro-legs finally gave way, and the caterpillar on its small fragment of rib slipped to the leaf below, which froze it, the slip did, in a position is maintained now for about 5 minutes. The question still remains, will it fall all the way to the bottom of the cage, or transfer to the leaf the rib is resting upon? Who knows? It occurs to me you could divine the future of the world by watching monarch caterpillars feed. The way they consume even the ribs supporting them seems instructive. The way they mindlessly eat their world away, out from under themselves. Is this a parable for Homo sapiens? I've taken one of the 5 caterpillars in the cage out and put it into its efficiency. That is a solo area. It was on the glass side of the cage when I turned the light on here this morning. Well, time to go on my walk. I'm sure Lucille is waiting out there with bated breath. Lucille is her dog. Went to the bathroom, and while I was in there, the inevitable, was it, happened. The caterpillar fell to the bottom of the cage, still clutching its rib fragment, which I wrested from its embrace when I put it back up on a leaf that has not been eaten at all. Well, so it goes. Time for a walk. So that was July 29th. As I say, much of July is very, very detailed observations of caterpillars. But there's a huge variety of stuff that she writes about. Sometimes they're very long, sometimes they're very short little essays. Sometimes they're not essays at all, they're just to-do lists. So if you'd like to join the Bandana Journal over on Substack, I think you just Google Bandana Journal Substack and it'll take you right there. Thank you for listening. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, next week, we'll go back to something light and humorous. Until then, you take good care. You take good care. And I'll take care of whatever cats remain around here. Promise. Bye-bye.